If someone gets tortured by an FBI agent,
It's for free. Take it. Run with it. See what you can do. But that's not true happiness, I think. I think true happiness is really experiencing. Yeah, but just assume you're getting hacked by everybody all the time. You're gonna have to deal with what I'm talking about. You're gonna have to deal with that in the future. Let's say we go extreme Star Trek sci-fi, okay? Here we go. Now we're leaving all reality right now. Okay, I'm just saying. FBI, open up!
welcome to the 4th episode of the Kimudo Podcast. My name is Udo, and this is Kim.
Hello.
What is the IBM Watson versus Jeopardy contestant event?
Oh, funny you should ask. I have something for you guys today. There was do you guys remember IBM Watson, one of the, I guess, earlier AI versions of what we have right now? And IBM Watson got really famous because it was on Jeopardy in 2011, and it beat the two best Jeopardy contestants of all time, and named Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter. And this machine, of course, IBM Watson, was extremely expensive, and it was, mind blowing that it blew the two best human minds at Jeopardy out of the water.
You
And
want to explain Jeopardy first?
yeah, okay, sure. So if you guys are not familiar with Jeopardy, the original version was with Alex Trebek in the United States, but there was Jeopardy in, everywhere in Europe, and I don't know if it made it to the Asian market as well. But Jeopardy was a game show where contestants had queries where they could choose a query based on a denomination. It was like $100, $200, $300, or something like that, 500, 700, or whatever, and then up to like 1,000. And the higher the denomination that you were, the higher the denomination you could get, the more difficult the question was going to be. But if you got the question correct, you got a higher amount of money, and then you could use that money to bet with, and whoever had the most amount of money at the end of the game show was the winner. And it was a very successful show. It was on TV for a great many years across all of the world. And it was kind of like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire before that, I guess, in when they added that as the technology. And IBM Watson searched and got answers, and it got it beat the two best ones. And it went, now, today, okay, IBM Watson was not beginning, but it was one of the big leaps that was made in AI. IBM Watson is an AI. And nowadays, of course, we have ChatGPT 4.0 as of recording of this podcast. And there was a person on Reddit named Madame Nika, and Madame Nika put the ChatGPT 4.0 against Jeopardy with and it went 47 out of 51, beating both Watson and the two best contestants. And you can now do this for $20 with a subscription. Actually, ChatGPT, technically you don't need to, if you just use that as a prompt, doesn't cost you anything. But for $20 you can have a subscription for ChatGPT 4.0, and you can have 20 years ago were just insane amounts of money that no one could afford. It was a machine that was so large, and now you can fit it on your phone because it's being cloud sourced. So it's amazing. So I just wanted to kind of say that was great. Thank you. Thank you. Great layup of a question, as they say.
Yeah, so today we want to talk about AI. But before that, I want to give you a kind of out of the blue question.
Mm-hmm.
How to min-max your life with your own clones? This question will kind of be relevant later.
What does min-max your life with your own clones mean? I mean, of course, min-maxing, you mean you're getting the minimum and the maximum out of your clone to utilize it to its fullest extent. But what is how to min-max your life with your own clones? What do you mean?
If cloning was possible, so I could have a clone of myself, or even 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, how should I use these clones to get maximum efficiency out of my daily life.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure, you would want to have them trained on how to make money for you, because money in in this current era would be great if it could take that big financial constraint and resource out of the way. But maybe then again, if you have a whole bunch of clones, maybe money is not your biggest constraint after all. Maybe it's time or something. So maybe it depends, I guess, on what your scenario is. Are you saying me personally right now, you're just some guy, you're dropping off some clones in my backyard and you say, hey, here you go, I made these are yours. I'm not going to apply them. Is that what you're saying?
This honestly, what you described just now sounds like a slave trade to me. Just, but it's instead of slaves, it's
You
like
just
your own
traffic.
clones.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
traffic clones. Hey, I made these. Yeah, I can see that. They look exactly like me. Yeah, I would for sure probably have him sit like a psychopath, like just a slave driver, and he would sit there and learn like the financial market. Maybe, I don't know, figure out how to day trade or something like that. I'm not sure if you can learn how to day trade with like ChatGPT and some courses, but I would probably put one clone to do that. Then maybe I would have another clone that can, I guess, learn how to cook in a healthier way, because I hate cooking personally. I will cook, of course, because you have to. You can't just always order out food. But cooking is not something I enjoy, and it takes a big part of my life, right? So if I could have someone, a clone that knows what I like to eat, which is going to be like a lot of Mexican stuff, I think. But it could be like Mexican salads and things as well. But if I could have that clone, then just learn more recipes and cook more, that would be great, because I would eat healthier, and uh, I would be much more stable, because I'm not great at eating when I'm supposed to and eating the right things. I kind of eat bad and I eat irregular. So these things would be huge as far as that goes.
Imagine all
Uh,
of your clones hate cooking.
oh
All of
yeah.
them.
Oh yeah. Depends on how good they are, right? If they clone properly, they probably would hate it. Because I hate it with a passion. So it'd be whatever they have to take that coding out of it. They need to use a lot of energy to take a lot of it out, because I really hate cooking.
That would
Always
actually be
have.
proof to that you hating cooking is in your DNA.
That's right. Yeah, it would. Yeah. Yeah, is it nature or nurture? How come I hate cooking so much? Was it that I had a bad experience with cooking, or maybe not enough experience with cooking, or
No, it's in
yeah,
your DNA.
it's in my DNA and all my clones prove it. Okay? Okay.
Okay. So one thing that one question or topic I wanted to talk about with this cloning question
Mhm.
is when we are living our life. Okay. At some point or another, we will have to decide a path in our life. So, for example, back then, before you went to college, you decided on a degree. Back
Mhm.
then, it could have been another degree. You said you studied international relations.
Yeah.
What were other degrees you were thinking of back
I
then?
I was thinking about something with coding in there, and interestingly enough, there were some degrees that had kind of like coding and like a political science, but that learned how to analyze data, which I thought was really interesting and great. But you end up just in basically a think tank, and the math requirement was higher. It was like calculus or something. So I'm like, I'm out. See ya. I'm
Yeah,
pushing it with statistics.
imagine one of your clones did that. So,
Yeah.
or basically, in every question that you have in your life, or every decision you have to make, you don't have to decide. You
You
just
get
send
both.
a clone, yeah,
Uh-huh.
on both decisions.
Oh my
So you're
god.
always covered,
Oh my
basically.
god. Yeah, and depending on how many clones, some of them can die. You know what I mean? So you can have quite a high. Your stress and scale for risk, could be off the charts if you want to.
Literally off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, if we're min maxing, to be honest, that risk should be bananas. Otherwise, you're not min maxing nothing. You're just playing it safe. I'm willing to let some of my clones die. It's true. Jeez.
How much
Cancelled.
Mexican food can you eat before you explode your toilet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That was kind of a sidetrack to clones. Let's try to apply this to AIs. Because like AI nowadays, it can lift off the workload for ourselves by a lot if we
Yeah.
use it correctly.
I know
So
the answer to this one. I would have this podcast produced, edited, uploaded in 13 minutes flat from the time we stopped talking, I think. It would be amazing. They would know exactly, I mean, if they're clones, they would know exactly what we like. And the intros and outros would, instead of taking hours, they would be done by clones immediately. It would be great. Well, it would feel like immediately because we wouldn't be involved anyway in the process. I mean, the true rich, right, is that money enables you to take time, I think, in a big way. Of course, it's always buying things and whatever else, but that's not true happiness, I think. I think true happiness is really experiencing life, and with that, you need time. So money buys time. But yeah, so if you had all these AIs, that's what I would do. That would be the true rich, that you use it to make money so that, and figure out the fun things, like making this podcast big, and I don't know, maybe I send a couple of them to go to work for various companies just to make some salaries, and then I could just sit and just spend it or do whatever I want with it. That would be the new the life.
that's actually what some people do. Like
I bet.
since COVID happened, uh, home office jobs became more of a thing, and then some people just literally applied for multiple jobs
Yeah.
and worked for multiple jobs, but in the end it was just some AI doing their work.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. It reminds me of I watched and I used to watch a lot of Texas Hold'em poker on Twitch.tv. They stream people, and and these professional poker players like Veldhuis is one of them that I watch a lot. He's great, and he plays like, not always, but many times he plays several tables at the same time. So he has like 4 windows open. And just imagine, when you're playing Texas Hold'em in person, in real life, you could only play one table at a time. But he's literally min-maxing so much that when COVID hit, he learned how to play 4 tables at the same time. So he's getting 4x the amount of value and time that he's spending, which is just thinking about that is bananas. What that might do to someone's income. If you can have 4 jobs paying you salary at the same time, and it's not small jobs. He's one of the best. He's an elite poker player, so the guy has millions of dollars. But then
I mean,
going from 1 table to 4, it's just gotta do a number on his economy.
yeah, on top of being really good at what he does, and it's a difficult thing, he's doing it 4 times at the same time, which is insane.
Yeah. Just imagine the skill. And I think he said even that, like, okay, yeah, you don't play optimally that way. I hope I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure he said this on the stream that, yeah, but you also accept that you're going to make some smaller mistakes that you wouldn't do if you had just 1 table to pay attention to. So he goes, you min max, and you just have to accept that sometimes you're just not going to make the best decisions that you could. But it's not about that. It's about maximizing. So yeah.
I guess this is one example of we humans becoming more and more capable. I'd say most people 500 years ago wouldn't be capable of doing something like that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, multitasking, it's more and more possible. What if humans evolved even further and they merged with machines? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, isn't that what like people like Elon Musk or Joe Rogan or people like this aren't that? That's not what they're saying that we already are kind of merging. I mean, what's the difference between having a phone in your pocket? It's always with you. It's not attached to your body, but what's the difference? You're always literally attached with the phone to your hip. That's always the case. So yeah, we're moving in that direction, of course, already. I think some years ago, I don't know how many years ago, but some years ago, we had kind of a paradigm shift where handicapped people are advantageous in Olympics and certain sports and things like that because they have newer technology legs, for example, so they can run faster than a human, and like a human with regular legs can. So we've gotten into the point where it went from a handicap to now they're kind of superhuman, which is interesting.
Have you heard of the Neuralink patient? The guy that he's in a wheelchair, and with the Neuralink implant, he was able to move his mouse cursor or a video game controller.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
And eventually he can play like chess and things, which were more advanced, and now he can play like Mario Kart.
yeah, like the Mario Kart stuff that you can see on YouTube as well. By the way, that's really impressive.
Yeah,
You
it
couldn't tell
is.
the difference. Like you couldn't tell if it was a not disabled person and a, an abled person.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was
It
really
plays
impressive.
better than some of the friends that you know, for sure. If you're listening to this, you're thinking some of the people who suck a little bit at Mario Kart, maybe they're young, maybe they're just trash, maybe they're, also known as women. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Canceled for number 2 this
Cancelled.
podcast. But no, for sure. He played, right? He played what you would say really good, at least for the little clip that we watched, which means two things. One, he's capable of playing at a high level but two, also that the Neuralink worked really, really well because who knows if it's the Neuralink at this point that is not adjusted to technology or his brain or whatever well enough, but maybe it's just a lack of him not being that good at the game or something like that. Maybe he, obviously he hasn't been introduced to gaming, his whole life like you and I have. So why would we expect him to be, honestly? So he was fantastically good, wouldn't you say, in the video?
Yeah, definitely. And now imagine that further. What if a pro player would play with his mind? Like you could mess up some combos or so if you're using the controls with your hands. But what if you can't mess that up anymore? Because you just think of the combo you want to do, and then it automatically executes that combo.
Mm-hmm. And you can't think incorrectly because then it would know that you're like, no, that's not what you meant. You were confusing two moves or something. How funny would that be? Sure,
Yeah, like pro gameplay in the future.
it's predictive. It's assistive.
It's like really really high level decision making
I
only.
want
Like
this on
not
record. Yeah,
it's not like mechanical skills, but like really high level decision making.
right. Yeah, it wouldn't be mechanical skills because that's not necessarily what we're good at. Computers have faster reaction speeds than humans do. So why would we even use that to our advantage? That's not how we would be utilizing it the most efficiently, I suppose. I was thinking about humans merge with machines or the future. And I was thinking about how have you heard of medicine 3.0? I think it's 3.0 or 2.0. Ah, God, I should Google this first. But have you heard of this where it's predictive medicine now or it's trying to be preventative medicine? Do you know this?
No,
Okay, so
I not. Can
no?
you explain it?
Okay. Perfect. It's perfect. It's even better that you don't. Okay. So, right now, if you're thinking about your medical system, the way it's set up, it means that if you have some symptom, you go to the doctor, they prescribe you something, and then you go and feel better. Okay. But how come we wait so long until we have something that tells us that something's wrong, right? Why would we ever do it that way? I think about it already. Like I have, for example, a Garmin on my arm right now. The Garmin is amazing. What a piece of machinery that people can. It's amazing that I can pay someone money and I can get this piece of machinery that measures all of my health stats. To varying accuracy. Of course, but still, it gives me some kind of nominal data that I can use to reference if I'm feeling averagely better or averagely worse, even if it is nominal data, meaning it has no relation to anything else, you know what I mean? But and I think about that, like, and that's the future, because how come we wait so long? In the future, this is how I predict it's gonna be. Again, I want this on record. I'm sure people talk about this everywhere, so it's not like I'm, imagine. It's not like I'm making this up. I'm sure this already exists. But why would it be that way? You're gonna have a piece of machinery, a piece of chip or something in your bloodstream, probably, or maybe in your wrist or in your arm or whatever, and that's gonna be measuring all of your blood saturation of whatever, hormones, vitamins, oxygen levels, pick every single thing. And then it's gonna send that data somewhere to like maybe a wristwatch or your phone, probably, right? Because that's the shortest distance, which means it costs less energy, I'm guessing. And if it detects you are starting to have the first symptoms of, I don't know, heart arrhythmia, if that even works that way. But like, let's say you have some heart flutter. So let's say it detects that you have some kind of problem with your body. It could automatically send a 911 or a 112 call if you're in Europe to the health services, sending the data already ahead of time so that the dispatcher, when they're sending you an ambulance, they already know what's wrong with you before, minutes before they even arrive at you. In fact, it's sending live data to the dispatcher at the same time as the ambulance is being en route to you, so they know exactly how much medicine to put in you by the time they arrive, because they will know when you stop breathing, all these things. I mean, sure, it's very 1984. It's very dystopian, that of course that could be used for a bad thing, but also imagine the good, though. What I just described would be fantastic in the way of saving lives, right? If you're removing all the ethical and, of course, moral boundaries that, of course, we're having qualms with that much data, should it really go this, that, and the other, and how are we going to protect it? Blah 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 blah. Of course, all these health, all these questions would have to be figured out, but the technology is there, so we're not going to ignore it. When have we ever ignored a technology because of ethical or moral reasons? It's never happened in the history of mankind, which means you're going to have to deal with what I'm talking about. You're going to have to deal with that in the future.
Basically, every new technology is some sort of double-edged sword. And I think we humans have to, it's our responsibility to make sure things will be good in the future. And that's why it's really important to think about the bad possibilities. Like, for example, if you have a microchip in your brain, some hacker might get access to it and then like always know what you're doing. For example, if your heart rate is increasing at 2 a.m. every night or so, then the hacker might know that you're getting some pussy right now.
Yeah, or imagine, that's awful. But you know what I imagine when you were saying that? Imagine if they have access to that data as you're doing, I don't know, work dealings or business dealings, or whatever you're going about your life, and they can tell when you're being nervous, so they use that to push on you even further, to kind of manipulate you in a negotiation, maybe, or whatever. And could you imagine, like, we think it's so bad now that Facebook and everybody are selling your data or whatever, if they do, and your personal data is being sold because we know it's really valuable now. But imagine in the future if you have access to, someone's live heart rate, or, I mean, that'd be just bananas. Could you imagine? How scary would this be?
What I'm imagining right now is, for example, if someone gets tortured by an FBI agent or whatever, some intelligence agent, so that the intelligence agent gets information out of the other person, the one that gets tortured. Just imagine, instead of torturing him, they knock him up, then they implant a microchip in his brain that monitors his like nervousness, his heart rate, and all of that. And then during an interrogation, the intelligence agents basically always know when this guy is getting nervous, when something is out of the ordinary.
Mm.
So they can kind of read his mind.
Yeah.
Who is safe? Like, basically, no one is safe if that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's like really important to talk about new technology and its implications.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because we know that in realism, if we don't develop the AI, some maybe China or someone else do, and we don't like the what that might mean for the world and for the economy, So that just can't happen. So the arms race is on. We know this already. So yeah, to act like this is not coming, it's naive. We have to discuss this and what we're comfortable with and what our morals and what we will allow and what we will not allow, what we will stand for. Because yeah, it's coming and it's coming soon too. There are some people are estimating. I think people are always estimating time. They're always too favorable. Things always take longer time than people are saying. But they're saying that we could hit general AI in like less than 3 years. So it's 2024 now, which means in 2027 we could have a general AI. They're saying that would be functional in that way. And I don't know what exactly even what I'm saying. I don't know what that even really necessarily means as of now. But I'm sure we will in the future. But even if it comes in 5 years or in 7 years, that's still absolute crazy.
So we were talking about AI in medicine, in surveillance. What about AI in research? Like, if you could kind of upload books into your mind, how insane would that be?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what really we were talking about Watson earlier. What Watson is being used for today is in surgery, but also in exactly the setting where in the medicine, they're looking up using Watson the AI to find suitable solutions for various case studies and various patients. So this is happening already with Watson in that regard.
I think microchips in the brain might enable people, colorblind people, seeing colors again, or mute people being able to talk again, because they just have to think about the words that they would normally type out, like what Stephen Hawking did.
Yeah.
But then instead of typing it, he's just thinking about it, and then it gets read out.
Imagine in the future now that we have AI that can already mimic and deep fake people's voices. Imagine if you had a voice and then for some reason you lost it or whatever happened to you, and then you can actually get your voice reconstructed, but of course with a voice box or something like that. But could you imagine you could get you could sound like you back again? That
You could
exists.
you could basically have a checkpoint of yourself every year, at every age. So when you're 80, you can look back and say, "Yeah, that was me." And then it's kind of like your past self could talk to you as an AI avatar.
And what if
Another
you could?
thing,
And
yeah,
what if you add, as you get older, you get the AI to add some type of raspiness or whatever to your voice, so that would simulate your voice aging along with you, so it's appropriate to your age always. So if you're 70, you don't sound like 15 anymore, according to the voice box. How wild would that be? How crazy would it be if it was accurate to the year?
How would a 200-year-old look like? Sound like.
Oh yeah, imagine in the future, we can live to 100 easy now, right? Not easy, but easy though, easy, right? Now imagine in the future when we can live to 200 years. Yeah, we're gonna have to create. Imagine that voice box. Or is it like relative that the quality of life, like when you're at 200, would be like just like when we're 100 now? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not necessarily like they're 200 and somehow survived, but it's more like 200 is the new 100 equal age, and because technology.
yeah. I also think it will be a relative.
More like that. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, even nowadays, like there are some people that are, I don't know, 50, but they literally look like they are 80. Completely
Yeah.
gray hair. They move like as if every bone in their body is breaking or so.
I saw a funny meme on the internet today, and it was a girl. She was like, I guess 18 or whatever, something like that, young anyway, and she'd been to a surgeon for something like that, and then she said, what if I got the lip fillers? How what would be my age looking then? Like how old would I look then? And the doctor says back to her, oh, you wouldn't look any different age. You would just now look like all of your peers. So age appropriate, the new age appropriate, which thought that was pretty clever.
If humans can get to 200 years old, how many lip fillers could they get?
A lot. It already sustains businesses, but it would be much better if they had much longer. If your average client could be 200 years old, you'd sustain you'd have a good business.
Oh my god. I feel like we are giving ideas to the pharma industry. Let people live longer and milk
Yeah,
them for more money.
I mean, it's heading that direction anyway. There's always going to be money in making sure that people live longer. But that's, I guess, the good thing about what I think is, the new next level of medicine coming out, is that it's going to be preventative. It's going to realize that, like, oh, yeah, you haven't been working out this much, and this is going to create X percentage or statistics for you having, X, Y, Z because it runs in your family or in your genome, for example. So I think in the future it's going to get scary how good and predictive, like, just imagine health data at a real-time level, at the readings that a computer can do, which we already know can be sampling, extremely fast per second, and then have that sent to whichever now the craziest AI is going to be in the future, that then super just reads everything in live. I mean, this is because this is what's coming, right? And all you have to pay probably will be a subscription, because that's already how the pay model looks like today. So I don't see a reason why it would ever be different, because it's too expensive to sell as a license. I think you have to just kind of use it as a subscription. But in either case, I think this is the difference between. This is why it's so scary. Is that it's going to be, as we always say on this podcast, Udo, that it's going to be the people who, in the future, now it's relevant. It's going to be more relevant in 5 years. And it's going to be even more relevant in 10 years, I think, from now. That it's going to be those people who learn and listen to this podcast and see and are curious about what the future holds. There's going to be all these solutions, all these AI, all these things that we're discussing now. And it's going to be the people who are not that interested who are going to get left behind, the typewriters, that got left behind and didn't update their skills to the computer age. Now it's going to be the people who are not. I talked to some people on this Discord that you and I both visit to, and we have some young people from various countries, and I talked to some Gen Z young people, and when I talk to them about AI, they shove every single decision and question or everything through AI. They say, it's like how to talk to girls, what's a good pickup line, how to think, how to help them with the homework, how to help them with this and that and the other. And I think it's going to be fascinating when that generation gets into the labor force, and it's going to happen very, very quickly. And what that looks like when these people are always used to having this kind of AI assistant that and has been handholding since they were children. You know, if you're growing up with it, it's going to be like a language, like anything else, right? If your parents speak a particular language in your household, you're going to learn that language as well. It's the same thing with AI. If you learn how to make prompts with AI because it comes to you when you are in your formative, very young, early age, you're going to pick it up very quickly, and then you're going to enter the workforce also very quickly. And it's going to be interesting what happens then because I think it's such a game changer, and we don't know what it is yet. So it's fun to think about.
But I think learning is like a conscious effort. And I guess back in the days, you could have said something about calculators that they make your brain lazy. Like you you won't be able to calculate in your head anymore.
People have always used this rhetoric.
Yeah. And you become more stupid and stuff. But the thing is, with the newer tools, in the end, we will just be focusing on different questions, kind of higher level questions. Okay, so like calculations, I know like 526 plus 1,299,000 or so. What's the result of this? We don't have to take time to calculate that anymore. We can just put it into a calculator. We figure out different questions that we have to address. And these questions might have an effect on a higher level. And the same thing, I think, is true for AI. So maybe like getting the questions answered is not the important thing anymore, but asking the right questions, inputting the right prompt, basically. That's what will be really important in the future.
Yeah, and it goes into prior episodes that I talked about before, right? Where I make the argument that we've been Googling things, as we even call the term. We don't say we search things, we say we Google things, even though Google is technically a company, and you don't Google on Bing, maybe. Or even if you do, I'm sure Bing doesn't particularly like it that you say that. But but anyway, I think, yeah, exactly. What it's going back to is this younger generation. They're putting every query and every kind of thinking that they've ever had through AI just to see what it tells you to do, and then they know that that's at least going to be a good average. And why wouldn't you think that way? Why wouldn't you use the tool that way? If you're not gonna, you can get, pretty far with the answers that you get from the AI, even if maybe it needs a lot of work, right now.
So what will jobs look like in the future?
Well, right now, depending on, like, for example, the last company I worked at, I won't mention which company that was, but they banned ChatGPT. They said you cannot use AI because it has not been cleared for security, and we don't want any kind of information that you're putting in as a query that is company kind of secret into this thing, which makes sense. And so they banned us. They said you're not allowed to use it. But do I think, this is like banning the computer when you have typewriter. How long is that going to work before you realize you have to just adapt and move on? You're going to have to. And I think that's what's happening already, is like the company that I work for now. They've made no stance on using AI. It's just, for example, if I wanted to use it in a way to type a good email, for example, I think that they would just say, good customer service is good customer service, and however you make that query doesn't really matter. So if that's the case, then look as a Gen Z person who would get that as an answer. Great, they're gonna have a good career. They're gonna write good emails quickly. AI, we know, writes emails quickly. It's gonna be tailored. It's gonna be, of course, you're gonna have to learn how to make. And that's what we're talking about. You're going to learn how to make a good prompt or a good query so that it doesn't sound like AI when it comes back out as an answer, right? We all have seen an AI answer, and we're quite allergic to reading them. But two things. One, that's just someone who is not prompting it well so that the answer comes out sounding very AI, which means that it hasn't been prompted on how the answer should be spat out. That's number one. Number two, we are in ChatGPT 4.0 right now. In ChatGPT maybe 5, it might be indistinguishable, perhaps, and an answer might look like someone what a PhD person would write, because they say that the next ChatGPT that's coming out, it's going to have quote unquote a PhD level of knowledge. So maybe then in the future it doesn't sound quite so
Artificial.
yeah, it sounds very artificial and it sounds very fake and very serving, right? Every time you write a question, it comes, absolutely, I'm so happy you're asking me about this. Like, it doesn't, it's so silly, it's going to have to grow up. I think it needs a lot of maturing to do, because right now it's quite pandering, if you will. It has a great tool. It doesn't need the, oh, I'm so glad you're asking me about this query kind of type thing, or this over positive or this fake kind of attitude. But again, that's just good or bad prompt engineering, I think. So we're going to have to learn. My whole speech here was to say we're going to learn how to remove Googling queries, and you're going to have to learn from Gen Z or and yourself how to write good prompting for AIs that spits out the data that is going to be relevant, useful, and ideally not AI sounding in the future.
Do we need it to always sound human?
No, but I think you have to think about where the motivation comes. The people who use the AI are the ones who are trying to save work. And if you're needing to edit things all the time because it doesn't sound like you who wrote it, or doesn't sound like a prompt you would, then yeah, the less editing you're doing because your prompting is better. If you make a prompt that sounds kind of like you and you figure out how to write that prompt in an efficient way, by the way, you can write a prompt quite long, right? So you can be quite descriptive in how you want it to come out and sounding. But you write that prompt once. But if you're thinking conversely, if you're spitting out and every time you have to edit your AI because it writes in a way that doesn't sound very much like you, it sounds very much like an AI, or it sounds very programmer, right? Then you're going to spend all the time editing it afterhand. It's much more efficient to edit it beforehand and get that prompt instead sounding like you, so you don't try to make those cuts and edits later.
When I'm communicating with a coworker, for example, and we're talking about data, just collecting data and sharing data about some metric, then I don't really need that to sound human.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the data that
Right.
we're interested in, just the numbers.
Right. No, in those scenarios, you might want it to be formatted instead in a way that fits into their
Yeah.
database or Excel or something like that instead. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I would argue AI doesn't always have to sound human. It's just in some cases. But in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, it's totally fine if it sounds automated.
Yeah, I just think of absolutely, of course, and it should be used that way. Two things though. One, it already is good at that already. It's always been good for programmers. It's always been good for that kind of thinking. So that's not but I think more about if you're thinking about most societies and how they're structured. Most people, for example, are not farmers anymore. They don't work against nature. They don't work against animals. They don't work against something. They usually work against people. Most people have an office job where they work in sales, maybe, or they work in some kind of capacity where people are something they deal with in a significant portion of their day. Okay. And I'm no different. I'm perfectly, it's exactly of that. So I think in those people, the biggest use case, the min-maxing, is going to be having it sounding good in emails, sounding good in negotiations with your boss, sounding good in meetings, sounding good in PowerPoint presentations. These are the types of things where I think the most people are going to benefit and drive some the significant amount, a portion of usefulness. It's not going to be maybe I'm not going to say not going to be in data. Of course, it's going to be data as well. But like you're arguing, where's the use case for where AI is strong? Maybe. Yeah, maybe figuring that out will be useful.
I'm just imagining right now being on a Zoom meeting and the other guy is just AI generated
Yeah.
and no one noticed.
Yeah.
That's when you realize how relevant that guy was.
And that guy is sitting and he has 4 jobs, just like, poker hold'em players. They're working at 4 different jobs. He just has 4 different kind of characters that answers in Zoom calls and stuff when they need meetings.
Just imagine a whole Zoom meeting for AI avatars.
My man's has a gigabit fiber line, just internet for 4 different companies at the same time, 4 different VPNs. Yeah.
And then imagine 2 competing companies, but it turns out to be the same guy.
Oh. I think if you do that, you're probably better off teaching and selling that somehow package to people to figure out how they can instead do it themselves instead of you doing it. Because yeah, if you do it, then you're 4xing. But if you're selling it, you could be 1,000xing, 10,000xing. Who knows?
Yeah, and after that you invest in AI stocks.
And then you question mark, and then you profit.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Yeah.
Nvidia stock, for example.
Yeah, they had huge news the other day. They said that the Sphere, the dome in Las Vegas, was made by millions and millions of NVIDIA GPUs. Did you see that?
A dome.
Yeah, you know the Sphere in Las Vegas?
No.
Okay. While Udo Googles this, he's about to find out, ladies and gentlemen, what the Sphere looks like in Las Vegas. For those of you who are listening and also don't know, go ahead and Google the Sphere, Las Vegas. You'll see what I'm talking about. It is a ginormous dome where people are sitting inside of it like an arena, and it has screens inside of it, so you can have a mix between where you have kind of this virtual reality and there's been various performances. I know Metallica, for example, had a stage performance inside of there. But if you're looking on the photos on Google right now, you are realizing that this is a particular kind of building. It's like an LED screen that is a half a dome, and it is massive, and it has millions and millions of NVIDIA GPUs powering all these LEDs that then make up a picture, and then they can make that picture look however they want. So they've made emojis, they've made smileys, they've made the sphere, they've made the world, they've made a ginormous pumpkin for Halloween, for example, and it lights up just like you would think an LED. So it's quite bright. It's really something. You should check it out if you don't know. All right, Udo, you're looking at it right now. What is your impression?
I really like the emoji. Like, very simplistic.
Yeah. Yeah, you can
I'm
make a
kidding.
move too. I mean, if you want to, you can make a move because these are screens. These are LEDs.
I think some of the pictures look really beautiful.
Yeah, they are. I wonder what that does to birds and shit, right? Does it just fuck up their GPS system so bad? They're just like, oh my god, what is this planet over here? It's bright. In
Imagine
20
the
years, we'll find out the sphere in Las Vegas was really not good for environment or the aviation, avian bird variety, to quote Family Guy. A certain bird variety of the avian kind.
Imagine all the birds go to that sphere, thinking it's that destination.
Oh my god! And they just go donk, 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 just against the. Yeah, I don't know.
Free food.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when I look at the sphere, okay, I'm kind of thinking about VR.
The R?
VR, virtual
Oh,
reality.
VR. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, you went a little German there.
that's so racist. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Cancelled again.
Oh, and cancel number 3. Continue.
I mean, you know about AI image generators or video generators, which
Oh,
will get better and better over the time. And imagine that applied to virtual reality. So you're talking about, we are talking about putting on the VR glasses and then looking into this VR world. And imagine you just have to think about something and then it appears right in front of you. You're prompting stuff with your mind. It would look like you're in a dream world. It would kind of look like that you're dreaming while you're awake. Basically a fantasy world.
On crack. Instead of staring at a dead tree, I mean a book, hallucinating, I mean reading, you'd be visualizing it in VR. Yeah.
And then I was also imagining that virtual reality, but in space. So you have zero gravity. And then, like, as you imagine this world, you can just fly through it.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
And maybe a business idea for some people.
It's for free. Take it. Run with it. See what you can do.
And good luck with that. Imagine the things that we can build in the future. I was just talking about virtual reality. And imagine we're planning to build a city together, you and me, okay? And then as we are in this virtual reality room, I'm just imagining the things that I would build in my city. Like for example, a copy of this Las Vegas sphere, a hospital to the left, and a 10-story police station to the right or so. And then it appears right in front of us. And then we can work on it together. And then we can plant some AI avatars that would simulate daily life. And then we could see what happens. What kind of an influence would this kind of change have?
What do you think?
Or that kind of change? I think it would be really great for city planning. Like plan things out and basically test it out in the simulation before you use taxpayer money to actually build it.
Make it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't know beforehand most of the times if it's good or not, or if there's a better option.
Yeah, generally, you want to go through iterations. Who was it that said, your first draft of anything is shit? It's exactly like that. But unfortunately, if you're coming out of university and you want to design something in city planner and you want to make a name for yourself, you're gonna jump head in, right first to try to make something so you can put that on your resume. Yeah, but maybe that's not what's best for taxpayers. Agreed. I like it. As we always stress on this podcast, it's about setting up the society so that the motivations are correct, I think if you set up the motivations for everything, everything else will follow. But, if you set up your KPIs wrong and name it whatever, if it's product or a business or even a city or a country or a household economic, situation. Yeah.
I agree with you that everything will follow, but it doesn't follow automatically. It's still a conscious effort. So you need hardworking people and very smart minds.
Yeah, and continually choosing the right choice as well. Yeah, exactly. Making sure that the motivations align and stay that way. Because, yeah, that's the problem. Is the motivations in real life don't align, and so you're gonna have to figure out how to make a choice that somehow makes sense, that is next best, or change motivation so that they do align as best as you can. But you're right, min maxing, it's never going to be the best.
What do you mean min-maxing is never going to be the best? Min-maxing is the best. Like,
No,
make the
I
most
mean,
of
but
it.
I'm saying no, but exactly. But I'm saying if you're doing it that way, you are not min maxing, and min maxing is the best. Exactly.
Ah, okay. Now I understand.
Yeah. my man was gonna die on this hill. He was like, "Man, what do you mean min maxing is not the best? He's the motherfucking best, dude." He's like, "What'd you say, dude? I'll fight you."
That ain't no min-maxing.
That ain't no min maxing, dude.
That ain't no crib walk.
That ain't no crib walk. Let me see you crib walk real quick.
Okay, back to the topic of AI. There are some people out there that are afraid of AI going out of control. Like, people are talking about this event called the singularity,
Yeah.
where the singularity means AI is getting smarter than humans, and after that, we're not sure what's going to happen.
Because we're
And
not smart enough and we're not it.
yeah, and we don't know what its intention will be.
Mm-hmm.
Will AI kind of eat us like a predator would eat his prey, or will AI enslave us, or what kind of bad things can happen?
See, I don't know. I think I don't know how you would have to almost draw and explain the correlation for me how that would happen, because the way I see it now, using the examples and experience that we've gained so far, what we've learned is that every single time we use these technologies in joint with the human, it is stronger than without. So if you ever have one part and then you exclude or kill or eat, or don't take into account humans, for example, if you are an AI, then you are missing out on all the answers you could have if you needed it, for example. And I think that it's always been that the technologies work the best when it is in a joint effort to get an answer together. So I don't know if we realize this. If I realize this as a human, I think that an AI would also realize this. Like if we went, let's say we go extreme Star Trek sci-fi. Okay, here we go. Now we're leaving all reality right now. Okay, I'm just saying, if you
Welcome to the Matrix.
yeah, welcome to the Matrix. Here we go. We're going deep. Okay, if you're imagining that there are various problems that come at you from different civilizations or aliens, or even not, maybe just astronomical problems coming from math and resource gathering and comments coming at you and calculations and whatever, this and that and the other, then you would think that it would be always useful for the AI to kind of keep us, even in the worst case, as slaves, so that it would know how some I guess mammals think, I guess, you know what I mean? Just because it knows that an AI will never think and have the same motivations as a human will, because we have emotions, for example, and all these other things that make us illogical and irrational and sway towards this and that and the other. So if you're thinking about trying to get the best answer, like if you're AI and you're logical and you're trying to get, okay, how can I get to the best answer? You would never want to kill all the things that sometimes can probably provide you with an answer, right? So it would always want to keep us around, I would imagine, because what if you meet another alien mammal in the future, and it's going to be like, I need to make a negotiation with this species to make them whatever subservient, or make an alliance or diplomatic relations or whatever, pick a thing. But if it knows that AI maybe is not going to be the best communicator because it's going to think and be motivated a certain way, maybe it would send someone like a human to represent it so that it would speak in a way that would be more appropriate, and would have a higher statistical likelihood of striking up relations. Like, I just think about it like with humans now. If you go to some parts of the world, maybe when you strike a business deal, you shake a hand. Maybe in some countries you spit in your hand and then you shake your hand. Maybe in some countries you go to and you have to actually have a shot, or maybe even spend some time with the other person's family and then shake hands on it to strike a business deal to be deemed quote unquote like kind of worthy, or you valuable, that you're going to have a business arrangement with. But so we have all these kind of cultural norms, so there's no reason to think that that's not going to be the case going forward in all eternity, as long as you're dealing with whatever species in the future, alien or otherwise. If it has emotions, you're going to want to be diverse in how you communicate, and AI knows it's going to be very singular in how it communicates, because it is not influenced by emotion, which might be an advantage in that sense, right? So I think it's always going to be that we are better together.
Not right. I have to disagree on that one.
Oh, I like it. Okay, let's go. Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let me hear.
if AI is good at learning,
Mm-hmm.
it will just observe that alien civilization, the culture of these aliens, and learn from it, and then like think about it and reason on its own. I don't think it will need humans.
Mm-hmm. But
So
what if you don't? What if it knows how to mimic, if you will, right? You're saying it knows how to learn it and mimic culture, or mimic certain quotes or sayings or whatever. Uh, and you think it would always know how to execute it perfectly and appropriately if it doesn't understand when? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you are an AI and you don't have emotion that is going to tell you when to say a certain thing or do the right thing to make this bond stronger, then you don't know when your cues are. And those cues are going to come from the irrational other alien being or whatever. And it might be hard for that AI to. It's not the game that it knows, right? It doesn't know how to read those. It can know how to mimic it, but it doesn't know how to feel them, and therefore doesn't know how to appropriately give maybe a response back. That's how I feel about it. Maybe.
just give the AI enough data, and then it will learn from it. It might not
And it can
necessarily.
replace it. Okay.
Yeah, and after that, humans will be replaced. No, you
Yeah,
were talking
could be.
about AI getting enslaved earlier,
Yeah.
and then I was thinking, why would AI use humans as slaves? They're inefficient. They get tired. They have to go
Yeah.
to the toilet. Just use robots, right?
Yeah, but I think in the AI, the AI also is very good at solving those issues. So it also isn't a cost to the AI if it wanted to like make it super comfortable for the humans to be motivated to do what they want to. I mean, we're super easily motivated. You just give us a comfortable life and we're fine. I feel like it could do that to harness it if it so felt that it was useful. So I don't necessarily feel like, oh, it's so difficult or we need so many things. Those things I think is not a cost necessarily. It could be solved pretty easily. Uh, but more interestingly, or more to the point, would be, yeah, you're right. If it needs us, because it thinks it needs some kind of decision on the fly, with us being alive being the beneficial thing. Because otherwise, you're right. If it learned from 100 million examples of people, yeah, it could probably get so damn close to mimic it, it may not even matter. To
I
your
think
point.
AI would rather view us as something on National Geographic.
Mm.
So it's just some wild animals that we watch
Mm-hmm.
and then look at them. What stupid things they do.
Yeah, and amazing things. It's all of it. And irrational things. Look at the irrational things it does. I bet an AI wouldn't make sense to an AI, would it? Oh, they know that it's bad for their relationship to cheat, but yet they cheated. That doesn't make any sense at all.
And then they do it again.
And then he didn't learn. He did it again. Oh my gosh. I bet a lot of things, or gambling. He knows that statistically, if he gambles, he's not likely to win because it's more likely that you get struck by lightning. And he knows this. We get taught this in school, but yet he gambled. Interesting. Now he has no money. Gambled all of his money away. That's interesting. Because, yeah, we do things that are not rational. We do things that don't make sense. That's just, in economics, there's so many economical theories that both take into account that we humans are irrational with our spending, but also things that don't take into account of it. And it's always fascinating to see those two fight over it because, we know that we don't spend money rationally. We do it with a lot of emotion and yeah.
But how rational is something like ChatGPT or AI in general? Like at some point in time, ChatGPT was like 2 + 2 = 5.
Why?
So all of these irrationalities, like maybe they are some kind of a bug that has to be fixed in the future, and kind of the same with humans. Like a gambling addiction is kind of a bug that you should fix.
Yeah, could be.
And for humans, maybe like some of our biology is kind of holding us back. It's kind of the limiting factor. But AI would not have that problem. It doesn't have hormones that go wild. It doesn't get horny
Or hungry.
or hangry.
Oh,
So what will be the limiting factor of AI?
energy. It seems like so far, I think.
Yeah, it costs a lot of energy to train AI.
And money. Extreme amounts of capital to train these large language models. So, yeah, energy and capital are two huge different things for sure. I wonder maybe time as well. I bet it takes time as well to run all this data, and so yeah, sure. Maybe you can only get so far. Also,
It takes good data.
it takes good data, takes good coders, takes good scientists to determine what is good data and bad data. We know now that AI is more likely to give an answer we like rather than the correct answer. That's a huge problem already. So yeah, what
To
does it do with that in the future? It can't continue like that. We know that. We already don't like it, so we're already working on fixing it.
to me, that problem kind of sounds like there was a bias in during the data collection process.
Yeah, I think that's the argument, right? That people have written in, if you're trying to get your AI to write something bad about a president or then write something good about another president or whatever, it'll have some bias on what it will allow you to, what it will allow the prompt to come out to be for you based on which president and so based on its wokeness. So for sure, people have already entered themselves into, the but you have to draw an ethical and a moral, for sure. You can't have the AI give out every single answer. So, of course, there are certain things that maybe the general public probably shouldn't have access to, shouldn't know, It shouldn't be super easy and access to how to make a bomb maybe on it. Maybe your AI shouldn't teach you how to do that. So, that's a good thing that they limit that. But on the other hand, maybe they also go a little bit too far on discerning who gets certain information and who gets what, If you are deciding that You can, if someone writes a good or a bad query about President A and then a good query or a bad query about President B, then you have given different answers. We've proven that to be the case in ChatGPT 3.5, I think it was. Then you've gone too far. We've entered humans a little bit too far into the algorithm there. You've
Who gets
taken
to
too much
decide?
liberty. Yeah, exactly. Who gets to decide? And as of right now, in the private sector, it's whoever gets to invest and to make these decisions. But maybe that's not the most moral and ethical person to make. Is not maybe the richest person. Maybe this should be decided, like Elon Musk suggests, in some type of overseeing body on limiting this arms race of AI, for example.
Yeah, another reason why it's really important to talk about these topics. There are a lot of problems, and we don't know the solution yet. So we need more smart people, more minds coming together and think about them. Think about these questions, think about these problems, and come up with ideas, come up with solutions. And maybe the idea is a good one, but it's not fleshed out yet. So another reason for smart people to come together, different minds, different opinions to come together and develop a solution.
100% agreed with you. This is one of those where you and I, we've talked about this before, that if you have more people and more minds that enter into an equation, someone will say something that might not been originally considered as a solution, and then eventually that could be then entered into the final solution, but it has to be suggested in the first place. This is kind of basic corporate, black belt, corporate kind of talk. So yeah, agreed. And if we know, and particularly in this case, I particularly agree with you, because if we know that it is an arms race and you're looking at how much, it doesn't matter when you're listening to this podcast, look at how much money various companies are investing into AI as you're listening to this podcast. Go ahead and look at it right now, and you'll probably see that the number is just absolutely bananas. It keeps going up as well. They keep investing more and more. So if we know that it is an arms race and people are putting their cold, hard-earned, invested cash into these businesses to get these latest and greatest and best updated AIs, then you know for a fact that it's the real thing. People never put money on things if it's not something that they think will pay off in a huge way. And guess what? People are. So that's the proof in the pudding right there. So if that's the case, we know that it's an arms race. We know that we're 10xing or whatever. Each version is just 10xing or more the prior version in capital. So if that's the case, then yeah, we need to have a lot of people, as many people as possible entering into this equation and figuring out how we determine where the line in the sand goes.
I kind of have to disagree with you. Just because a lot of people are putting their money in that thing doesn't mean that it's very important or it's very impactful or so. I mean, look at the .com bubble.
That's not what
Back.
I mean exactly, if I may cut you off. What
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean is that you're putting a huge amount of capital into a particular tool, and that tool is going to be exponentially more powerful because of the amount of capital that you're investing in it. So what I mean is you have a tool that is going to become extremely powerful one way or another, and if we don't have a governing body or we don't have a moral and ethics to know how to point that tool, just like a hammer can build a house, it can destroy a house. And that's what I mean.
Oh, okay, now I understand. The more money you put in, the more money it can generate, the more
Yep.
money you can put in,
And we
and so
know
on and so
and we
forth.
know that there's so much capital being pushed into these AIs as we speak. So if you are going to get a solution for this, we are already on against the clock, against on how much capital is being pushed into these new models, because the more powerful these tools and instruments are going to be, they're like a Ferrari. They're going to go move very quickly, but we have to figure out which direction, and that's what I mean. So yeah, if you already know that the clock is against you because of the amount of capital getting invested, then we need as many people into the equation as possible to figure out what is the solution. I hope that makes more sense. I hope I didn't lose our listeners and you and yourself. Yeah. I think I'm hopeful though. In general, if you're looking at how we use technology, it is in general always been more beneficial, particularly in the modern society, to create a product that doesn't kill everybody, but rather instead, makes money off of everybody. And maybe that's not a good thing necessarily, but it is a good thing in the sense that we'll be okay. We'll be all right. That's the thing. I think as long as it doesn't become like MAD 2.0, where we're talking about what MAD means. I mean, it's mutually assured destruction with you when you have two countries sending their nukes towards each other to annihilate the rest of the world. If AI is the next 2.0 of MAD, then we have a huge problem. And it might be, maybe if you put on, who knows, if you put AI and then connected with quantum encryption hacking, maybe you get just bananas world. Maybe we enter into a new dimension of a new paradigm shift on what becomes available and unlocked as a result of those two huge technologies, two costly capital intensive technologies, quantum computing and AI put together. I bet the answer to that is not even going to make sense to us in 2024. I don't think we can imagine. Another thing I want on the record: you're listening to this in 2050, I got you. Okay, I promise. We right now in 2024 did not know what was gonna happen when you put those two together, but I know we are going to eventually in the future. Why wouldn't we? Of course we're going to. And what happens then? And if we don't have morals and ethics figuring out the frame and structure of it, then it's just gonna build a house or destroy a house. And it could destroy our house. It could destroy everything. It could wreck civilization. It could eat humanity, as you call it.
Why would it eat humanity? In the end, it would basically just be like the nukes, like two humans hating each other, and then entering that mad scenario where they hate each other so much that they just want to destroy everything. So in the end, it's kind of, in terms of AI, it's not AI getting out of control, but AI used by stupid humans being used unwisely.
Or worse, used by corporations unwisely, or for malicious intent, or for profit that is at expense of maybe something else. Yeah.
So how do we make sure that this power goes to the right people?
Yeah, I don't know. I know Elon Musk ask for some kind of overseeing body, some type of international community body that oversees AI to make sure that we do set these kind of limitations. But even he himself realized and said that, of course, I'm the first person to put the stake in the ground and say, hey, look, we need to talk about this. We need to create some kind of overseeing body, because this is an arms race that doesn't look like it's going to stop otherwise, and it could go into really dangerous territory very quickly. But how are you going to do that? We talked about realism already on the podcast, and if you're a steady listener, by the way, you know what it means now. If not, go back to our prior episode and listen to realism. I think it was episode 1. And you'll realize that in an arms race, you cannot just simply stop because the other person's not going to stop. So why would you ever give yourself a disadvantage if you don't have to because of resources or some other extraneous reason? So yeah, you're going to need to figure out how to put more capital in to do more computation. And that'll be the arms race that will never stop. And whoever gets the best AI rules the world, kind of, right? I mean, look at it now. Who's the search engine king? It's Google, right? How many people use Bing? I heard Bing is probably getting better. I heard, by the way, but But how many people do you think uses Bing compared to Google, for example? Like they rule as of right now. They rule everything, and I think that's exactly the same thing when it comes to AI. Right now is ChatGPT. They rule. They provide the best service. There are a lot of AIs, but they are all based on ChatGPT 4.0, and soon then probably after that it will be 5.0. So you're yeah.
You were talking about an overseeing body or an overseeing organization for AI earlier and realism. And I think that was completely spot on. Because
Why? Why do you think it was spot on?
if the overseeing body comes up with certain restrictions or rules, how are these restrictions enforced?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the problem because every time a sovereign state or a country wants to partake in this international body, they have to give up some of their rights so that it can be enforced. And that's the problem is that if you don't have everybody agreeing to give up some of those rights, then you don't have really a way of enforcing it. And then if that doesn't happen, it's kind of like a house of cards where everything falls apart. Because then why would you give up your country's rights? If you don't think that you would be benefiting or getting anything out of this international body, because this international body is failing because not enough countries are pledging their rights to give up to it, and that's the problem. That's international relations in a nutshell. Right there is realism. You are always going to have the motivation to be self-preserving, and if the motivation doesn't give you the benefit to pledge up those rights because you don't think that it will pay enough dividends back, and then why would you? You'd be insane too to do that. What are what are you, naive and blue-eyed? So
Yeah, especially against countries that don't give a shit.
yeah, exactly. You're gonna have countries. We know some countries are realist out there, as we've pointed out. And these countries are gonna think that, oh, it's a power grab. It's for free. These dumb countries are just giving us some extra power, because if they get a seat on this international body and then they have some legislative power or whatever, then they can stand to benefit to gain a bunch from that.
Which kind of gives us conditions for an overseeing body. It doesn't have. It should not only do rules and restrictions, but also come up with ideas on how to invent a system that prevents realists or other people from taking over control anyways and overruling the rules.
Yeah, and how do you do that? Well, as we mentioned over and over again on the podcast, you set up the motivations so that it aligns with what a realist would want to do. So, if a realist would deem it worthy to be attacked, they're going to do that because that's in their best interest. But if the motivation is the opposite, they deem it that this could be self-preserved and it's better that it's being protected because they stand to benefit something from it. Then you see.
Yeah, and early on we were talking about what AI needs, and energy production was one of it. Good data was one of it. And in terms of good data, apparently right now there's technology that can quote unquote poison data for AI. So for the human eye, when we look at pictures, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we would just think it's a normal picture. But if we give that poisoned picture to AI as training data, then complete bullshit would come out of it. Because like some pixels or some parts of it has been distorted in a way that AI does not understand it.
Yeah, like hands, for example. AI does not make good hands. You ever seen hands made by AI?
It's getting better, but a lot of times it looks really, really weird. Like
They look
fingers are
like
missing.
tentacles or something, right? Or like a squid arm or something.
Yeah, or sometimes they are missing completely.
Or they're missing completely. Yeah.
Or they're kind of fused together. So
Yeah, like mittens. Weird problem to get hung up on, huh? AI? For sure, fix yourself, you know what I mean? I know that, like, people, when they start drawing hands, is kind of a problem, because, or particularly fingers, because you have to draw 5 of them, you know what I mean? To make it not look weird. It's a difficulty sometimes. But it's funny that AI also somehow got the same issue as humans do. That hands became like or toes became like a real problem. We're like, we're freaking out here.
I think there are 2 problems here.
Mm.
One problem is the data problem. A lot of times when we are taking pictures of humans, we are not focusing on the hands. So the hands are kind of
A
they
byproduct.
might be overlapping, or they might be hidden
Mm.
behind a t-shirt or a pocket or so. So that's kind of screwing the data.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that we are training AI on human data, so human produced data. So there is some kind of bias in that.
If you were an evil supervillain, how would you build your ultimate dictatorship?
It would have to include AI for sure. If you're building a dictatorship, you know what I would do? I would take, if you have the state, like if you have a large budget, like and big enough for a country, I would take those resources and use AI to target people and mimic them to be, grandchildren of older people, and I would just suck money out of people, and just do that for however long I could do it, before there's enough media outlets that kind of probably warn everybody. But I think the world is not ready. If you had AI, okay, and I'm
Okay.
evil, I would have 10,000 or however many AIs I could afford, just mimic a little bit of audio of the grandchildren. You could pull this from Instagram. You could pull audio from all over the world, right? A little bit of photos, a little bit of. You could just make the AI post things and send text messages, with a fake AI image, or you could just have the AI call, and you could even have them make a video call, right? And just have the AI mimic your face now, deep fake it. So, that's what I would do, and just say, "Oh, we're in trouble. I'm in trouble. I need, Grandma, I need $10,000. Could you somehow come up with $10,000?" Maybe even the AI. Not that it would take long. Maybe you have the AI do a little bit of investigative research and find out kind of like the net worth of like what the property is of grandma and grandpa, and like the car that they drive, and it tries to estimate like how much money you could extract, so that you just don't say 10,000 to everybody, but rather if it goes into Google Maps and it sees that the estate and the property line seems quite big, it actually just adjusts the requirement to $1 million, and I would just siphon cash that way. And then as you get that, as you rake in those millions and millions of dollars, you're wrecking the economy of your opponent country. But you would take that. I would take that money then, and then if build it and use it into maybe military power, because you're gonna have to defend yourself at some point, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna figure out that like this is a coordinated attack. They're gonna figure it out at some point. And if you're doing that, you probably should take all that money and probably have some way of defending yourself, because they're gonna attack. It's gonna be retaliation back. But imagine if you are a dictator with like a large enough resources to be able to do that. We talk about the potential of like the supposed Russian troll bot farms, where lots and lots of Russian people were hired, sat in an office, and every day all they did was code these mass the Twitter bots to tweet, Russian disinformation and whatever. This is proven to be true, right? This is not like a conspiracy theory, but rather this is Googleable. You can find out that this is true. Now imagine though, that's a small coordinated attack that wrecked supposedly, the elections of America and election cycles, because there's so much disinformation that, they were saying every so many interactions on Twitter were actually made by bots, and there was no one at the other end that you're arguing with, just so you know. Now imagine this on an AI level. If you are trying to if you're a super villain, just imagine what you would do with 30 seconds worth of recording of your granddaughter's Instagram, and you're just posing in whatever, some photos of Las Vegas or whatever, and it just mimics that you got in trouble or whatever. You can even answer questions. The AI answers questions live, just sounds like you. So you can even, the grandma will interact with it. I don't think we realize how powerful AI is now. Okay, that's before GPT-5. Imagine once the AI is PhD level supposed intelligence or higher. What about the next level when the AI is far going past the PhD level? Now what happens? What can you do then if you really? That's the thing. I think that's what we're talking a lot about on this podcast, right? That AI is such a dangerous tool if it's in the wrong hands, because it is powerful both directions, just like a hammer is powerful. A hammer is an essential tool to build a house, but a hammer also is really an essential tool to break down certain parts. If you're trying to make a repair, for example, good luck making a repair to a door frame when you don't have like a hammer and some tools to do that with. You need these tools. So AI is no different. It's just an extremely expensive tool that is super powerful, super useful, and then depending on who has access to it and their motives, that tool can be used in an extremely powerful way, one way for good or one way for bad. And of course, it's going to be used for both ways, right? Like anything.
Yeah, and I was imagining that a dictator is going to use AI in a lot of different ways, because it's good if we think about that beforehand. Like, what would a dictator do if he had basically unlimited power? In what ways, what tools would he use to oppress his citizens?
I think it's
that might happen.
I think it's a great question. I agree with you. I think it's a great question that you're asking this, because you're right. So far, I feel like people are not talking about this because we like to imagine, because not everyone is pro AI. That's not the case. But if you're looking at how much capital is being invested in AI, if you're looking at that as we are pro AI, that's what I mean. Okay. Now, if you're using that measurement, you would say, look where we're heading with AI. We're very clearly pushing it because we know the capabilities that AI can do to alleviate various problems in our future, and it does, and it can. But you're right. Just like okay, with COVID-19, if you were saying anything negative about the vaccine, you were then you were labeled very quickly as anti-vaccine. You were an anti-vaxxer. But maybe you were not necessarily aligned with anti-vaxxers. Maybe you were just saying, look, these are medicines that were approved within, I think, like a couple of days, and then it was mass distributed. It was untested in large capacity because it was approved on a fast track with a lower set level of security and testing but we needed the vaccine so quickly. But if you were saying that, you were labeled as like, look, you're doing harm to the people. Of course, you don't want to say these things because you want to make sure that as many people get vaccinated as possible, which is true. And I think this is a kind of like the new level of thinking where we come to this AI, is that nobody wants to talk about what you're asking here, which is why I like it so much, because you don't want to be stifling AI. You don't want to be like, oh my God, let's not think about that. But let's not think about, because if you're listening, for example, if you've watched Black Mirror, for example, if you haven't watched Black Mirror, go ahead and do it. It's amazing. But it's basically a dystopian show where a lot of it is technology being used in
the wrong way.
Yeah, and what that would be if the technology get used to the incorrect way. And I think this would be like something that would be right up the Black Mirror episode, because just using AI, if you have access to a little bit of power, or because look, we know that, okay, right now, as the investments happen into AI, it's huge amounts of capital going in to make these large language models learn and run on these massive data sets, right? But as usual, economics 101 tells us that this is going to come down in cost. It's going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So yeah, what happens when you put these huge, powerful things in, like, I don't know.
Surveillance, for example. I was thinking of China, for example, with the social credit system that they try to develop over there. Imagine like any camera footage, like quote unquote, back in the days, any camera footage, like a human has to review it and look at what's going on. But there's like hours and hours and hundreds and hours of video footage. For example, in public spaces like train stations or malls or so. But with AI, it can just summarize all these hundreds and hours of footage for the evil dictator.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect tool for a surveillance state.
Yeah, it is.
And now
And it does it efficiently and fast.
Super efficiently.
And in the future, it's going to do so also cost efficiently. Now think about that.
It's
because
really
the more you scale,
scary.
Yeah, because the more you scale this down, the more access is going to be. So then maybe smaller dictatorships or smaller, state ships, and then eventually maybe small guerrilla groups maybe get a hold of this type of AI access. I mean, depending on how cheap it becomes and how small this economic scale becomes, you're going to find that it's going to be accessible by various levels of tyranny. Right now it's priced out, right? Like only the big companies that we're looking at, the huge Google, they could shove in $500 million into a large language module. You're not going to see that you're not going to see it developed by a paramilitary group in Colombia that deals cocaine. They're not going to develop their own AI. But in the future, this is not the case, because economics 101 is gonna make it smaller and smaller in scale. And then what does it look like when various smaller tyrannical groups, like maybe then gangs, get a hold of, and they figure out how to use AI to wreak havoc in their world, however much power they have over whatever that is. If that's a barrero, or maybe if it's a couple of blocks worth of gang leadership that have, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. It's going to be really crazy, right?
Yeah, and at that time it would be too late. So it's really important to figure out solutions right now.
Yeah.
So, do you have an idea on how to fight surveillance, or what to do against surveillance powered by AI?
I have some ideas on how maybe you could do it. I'm not a coder, but I know I know just enough to maybe say something stupid, and I'm going to here. That is because, okay, let's rewind a little bit. What happens right now, as of this recording, if you take a photo with a Samsung phone, and that photo then uses AI to remove something in the background. You can remove people, you can remove a kite, you can remove a tree, you can remove a trash bin, all this little things. All you gotta do is like take your finger and circle it and remove it, okay? And how Samsung does it today is it adds then after that in the bottom, I think left corner, it says like updated with AI or made with AI or something like that. So it lets you know that it's been edited and this photo is no longer real, okay? The problem with it, of course, is that, okay, you save that image and then you open it again, and then the second time you put it through the same AI, and or maybe you don't even put it through the same AI, you just crop that made with AI just out of it. And then boom, you now have an image that does not necessarily show and say clearly to Instagram maybe or wherever you upload it that it was made with AI. It is not a real image. And this is happening more and more. My Pixel 7 can do this, where I just take a photo and it takes like 7 photos and it'll tell me which one's the best photo, and it'll merge photos if I want to. I can put my face on a different image where maybe my face was closed, my eyes were closed, maybe something like that, and I can put my face on there, and I can make images that actually never did happen, but technically I can merge them together, and that's right now. That's just right now. Now, the problem with this is it doesn't work very well. Because of the problem I just demonstrated is that the AI is not, you can't determine it. But there is something, and I really hope, maybe I misunderstand the way this works really, and I hope I'm not wasting people's time by saying this, but I had an idea that I remember with Linux, when you download a software from a website, you can get I think it's an MD5, I think, hash key, or an MD5 checksum, something like that is what it's called. And you run this against a server, and from your local side, you run them together to see, and it runs, and it tells you if this encryption matches, which means you then have a verified software that says, yes, this came from this server. Yes, this is a real verified software that you can use safely because it comes from a safe place. That's been done for. I remember I learned about this like 20 years ago, so it's been existing for even much longer than that, I think. And I wonder if you could do something like that in the future. It's going to be very data intensive, but as we know, data and storage is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper anyway. So maybe this is less and less of a problem, where before maybe you could not do it, but now in the future, now you can. And I wonder if that is every time you take a photo or something, and that photo gets uploaded to, pick a thing, Instagram in the future. In the future, maybe there's like a little link that you click on, and it checks the hash key of that photo against the whichever server, whatever, and it verifies if that photo then was AI edited or not. And that server will be like, it'll say if it matches or not. If it doesn't match, it's been edited, because it means that it doesn't match what was outputted by the server. But if it does match, that it's an authentic photo, for example. So maybe that's how you make this a commodity in the future. So right now on Instagram, not every girl, but girls are using these filters to make themselves look gorgeous, and they get eyelashes, and they fix makeup on themselves and whatever. And I get that it's easy and convenient, but maybe in the future, the future will be the exact opposite. It'll be certified that it wasn't used with a filter, or rather, it wasn't used with AI. And if you're certified beautiful without any kind of edited programs, maybe this is maybe the next commodity of quote unquote gorgeous.
This makes me think of if everything needs verification in the future because of AI filters or even the dangers of deepfakes. Do we need a new internet? Do we need Web 3.0? And then we would have to ditch Web 2.0?
What do you mean?
Ditch
Give us an example.
Maybe in the future we have to assume anything that is on Web 2.0, so like the normal YouTube that we use right now, for example. Anything on that is probably AI generated because it doesn't have the new verification system.
It's the it's going to be considered the Wild Wild West.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we would have to move all that infrastructure, all the platforms that we use, like Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or whatever. All of that has to be moved to Web 3.0, where there's large-scale verification to protect us against AI.
And maybe that's decentralized and it's on the blockchain, and that's how you run the checksums in the future. Everybody verifies it for you. Oh shit! Mind blown.
I think we're cooking something.
Dude, we're cooking. I'm sure someone's already probably like, oh my god, of course that already exists. It's called this and that. but I don't know about it. That's amazing. That would be great, right? That's how you do it. You decentralize it, and then everybody verifies it. That's the future. And then maybe that's also how you decentralize the cost of the verifications too, because if you're sending it to, quote unquote a huge Instagram server, for example, maybe the cost of all those verifications each and every single time someone clicks verification on a photo, and there's X millions of photos and videos, maybe that becomes very data intensive. So maybe having it on a blockchain is how you do it.
But the blockchain is pretty data intensive. No, wait, let me Google how big is the Bitcoin blockchain.
How much energy does it use too? Like, I'm not talking about mining, but how much, all these verifications when people are transferring, how much energy does that use? Is it extremely expensive? And is that relative? What if you had AI do these things? Is that more efficiently maybe ran?
No, that's the thing about Bitcoin. Like the most efficient way we can think of right now is just random guesses. That's why it's so safe. Like you have to actually put in the work, the computational work of randomly guessing numbers to verify a block,
which gets you a coin.
Yeah, that's what gets you a reward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so energy intensive. Yeah.
Does this work in the future once we all are sitting instead of with the regular linear computers like we have today? When we're all on our quantum computers, which, by the way, I can't wait for the graphics on the quantum computer. Does this all break down, or does it work still on a quantum computer? Because they said that all the typical 128 encryption keys and all that, they're saying it's literally a ticking time bomb until all this has been broken. It's just a matter of when these quantum computers become economically feasible, and someone was going to break it. And it's just
that's another reason. That's another reason for Web 3.0. Like the encryption of Web 2.0 is not safe once we have quantum computers. But actually, like the encryption right now is not safe either, because there's I forgot the name of it, but some people are just downloading massive amounts of data, which is encrypted. And then they're storing it for later when the time comes and quantum computers are powerful enough.
Yes.
Then they will track all of that data.
I've heard. No. And retroactively, if you're not protected by then, you're SOL. Get out of luck.
Nothing's safe anymore. Like no data is safe, basically. Especially encrypted data from, I don't know, the government or businesses or so. We might get the new Panama Papers.
Wow. I wonder, they're always saying, oh, it's not safe. We cannot take votes on the internet. Meanwhile, you can do banking. So the money, apparently, it's safe enough to do money on the internet, but apparently not your vote. It's not safe. I don't understand that. But leaving that aside, is that available once we all have our quantum computers? Does that unlock us being able to maybe vote in the future? Is that when I get my AI system where it tells you each vote, it breaks it down, and the AI takes into account, because it has access to all of your data, so it knows your education level, your interests, your tax bracket, your socioeconomic, your investments, your assets, your debt, and it tells you exactly how the vote is going to affect you as a person and your family. And then you can click on various links in the AI software where it goes then into breaking it down even further on how that affects you then morally, and all those things that are maybe not measurable by normal KPIs, if you will. And then we get to vote that way on each and every single individual law. That way we don't have politicians who lie and maybe do the exact opposite of what they were voted in for. So, in the future, if you can just vote directly on each law, and you get a little notification on your phone when a new law is coming out that needs to be voted on, everybody would be much better informed and would be much more involved in understanding how these laws would impact you. And then you can always, it's an AI, right? So you can always make it explain to you as well and summarize to you what what would happen and what would society look like if this law was enacted. You could just sit and play with what that law would look like because it would simulate it right in the app. So it would tell you, oh yeah, if you enact this law, so X amount of more criminals would be kind of considered being created because making this law illegal for this, that, and the other, you're gonna have, and that's gonna cost maybe this much on society or whatever. Like, imagine. But I wonder, is that available once we have quantum computers? Because that's not available maybe currently on our.
So what you just mentioned is basically available right now. Like people can just like AI can be used to like Google information or explain stuff to you because like not many people can speak legalese or like understand legal text because they're written very complicated. And it would be really, really useful to use AI and then just summarize this for you. Or bills that are signed by the government, like new laws. Like we don't understand them necessarily at first, but if AI summarizes it for us, it would be way easier for the common people like me, for example, to understand what's going on. And I would then not rely on media that is probably biased to tell me what's in there, but I can check with my AI. Obviously, this has the condition that the AI is not biased, and hopefully at some point we will have an AI that's the least biased.
Yeah, and not so woke. It's very obvious that humans so far in our, ChatGPT 4.0 is amazing and groundbreaking. Of course, that's why I'm so obsessed with it. That's why I talk about it on every single episode almost. But it's because of what the potential that we see that we're so obsessed with it. It not necessarily because of the product that we have in front of us, because it is extremely woke. It is extremely limited in the answer it gives, and people are always showing where all the biases of humans who have coded these things have entered into the prompts and answers and what it can talk about, what it will talk, what it'll allow itself to talk about. And I think in the future it's going to have to be a lot more, like you're saying, they're factual. It needs to be a lot closer to not necessarily Wikipedia, but I think more closer to a Wikipedia where in the cited sources, when you're clicking through a text source like Wikipedia page, you could just click on one of the text sources and you can read from where that was quoted and why it says that, and you could continue, your education on each thing. I think that's going to be much better. But I know that all these things are available now because, yeah, of course, we know what AI looks like. What I mean more is, why is the voting so forbidden? Why is it that no single country as of 2024 that I know of have, all of the voting done directly by non-representative through the internet in some kind of software or something like that? And I think from what I always understand, it's always been quoted that it's a security concern. And I wonder, with the quantum computer then, does that concern go away, or is it increased actually?
So I've not read any details about that topic. So take what I will be saying with a grain of salt. But as far as I understand it, if you send information on a quantum level, physically, like according to quantum physics, a hacker cannot access your information, your encrypted quantum information, without destroying the quantum state, which means it's not quantum encrypted anymore. And this also means that you will always notice when you're being hacked or when there's a phishing attack on you. So this gives opportunities to safer tools to check whether your information is being watched by a third person, and that might lead to something that's safe enough for online voting.
Does that work? I'm just thinking as far as a tool that says, it's been hacked or it's a verifiable when it's been hacked. But what if in the future you have so many attacks that, yeah, okay, you're getting hacked, but what if you get overwhelmed by the amount of attacks? It's useless information at that point, maybe. Like, you already know,
If you know,
just
you know.
assume, yeah, but just assume you're getting hacked by everybody all the time.
But
And the
that
cheaper
would
the
leave-
hacking becomes, the more attacks you're gonna get. So you're just gonna be getting okay. So
Oh wow, yeah. Now that you say it, if like processing gets cheaper and cheaper in the future, like everyone can like cheaply DDoS you.
yeah, that tool is gonna be less and less useful. Eventually, it's just gonna tell you something you already knew.
Yeah.
uh,
So there are a lot of new inventions that we need, new tools for security that we need for Web 3.0, and I guess we have established that Web 2.0 in the future might not be safe anymore. Probably not safe anymore.
yeah.
And we really need to think of ways to make Web 3.0 safer. And one way is authentication. And I hope some smart people come up with a good way.
You don't have to hope. It's just human nature. There's always going to be people who are going to be obsessed with that problem and that question on how to work encryption. So we'll get that answer. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because it is a paradigm shift in how we look at encryption and yeah, what's safe and what's not safe. And you're right. That's interesting. It's so very interesting that you're saying that because now, okay, let's think about the internet as of how it looks right now. We've gone through a couple of eras, right? So we've had the torrenting kazaa, music downloading wild wild west, right? Where torrenting, you could just go crazy. There was, no one could stop you because they didn't know what you were doing. But it was mostly limited by your internet speed, right? So you could download things, but your internet speed was kind of limiting on how much you could really consume, and storage was also very expensive, right? So that's really your limiting. Then we have the deep web, the Tor, and that was dark. And you had, the snuff videos era, that was dark. And then we've kind of moved on. The internet's gotten safer, and Google's, removed a lot of these things so that it's not as accessible to people, which is great. But so you have these different wild west internet, and then you're telling me, which is fascinating to think about, that yeah, we're gonna have the next level, and we're gonna think back on what we think right now is safe, as you and I were doing. I've done a bank transfer on my cell phone today from one account to another. It was easy, convenient. It was moved a huge amount of money immediately because it's from my one bank account to my other bank account, right? So it moves it immediately. Fine, weren't great, but in the future, yeah, you're right. As soon as everybody has, or not even everybody, but as soon as some non-state actors maybe or whatever who have access enough to these quantum computers, it's going to make it so that now one day it's going to be like those who have quantum computers and access to all this power and those who don't. And the moment that happens, you're not going to be able to like go and log onto your bank account because it's going to have to be on a quantum encryption. And guess what? Your phone is not going to like have that power to do that.
So all of us will have to buy a new phone at some point.
Yeah. Quantum phone.
Invest in phone companies right now. Not
Yeah, yeah.
financial advice, by the way.
Yeah. Invest in Nvidia. Not. It seems like every time Nvidia is involved in something, that seems to be kind of where the capital is going. Nvidia is capitalism 3.0. Yeah, and imagine then if you are an evil dictator. That's just that just hit one thing. That was just AI and encryption. But just imagine what you would do
If I was
in.
a evil dictator with AI, I would, instead of a military made of humans, I would have humanoid robots.
Mm-hmm.
They
What would
can execute dangerous missions like mercilessly and with
Uh-huh.
higher precision.
Yeah. Did you see that the way a dogfight is a military plane that fights a military plane in the air, and they're showing that the new systems that are coming out and with these fighter jets that are using AI, they have like 100% win rate against humans because of what you were talking about. They take these extreme measures. They know where the limit is of how quick they can turn and how many G forces they can put on a certain piece of turn and whatever. So they execute these extreme maneuvers that humans never could or would because of both one passing out because the AI turns much harder than a human ever could withstand. Number one, so that gives them all these advantages in a dogfight compared to humans, and I find it fast. So gone are the days where humans are the best. The fighter pilot that's gone. The best now from all of the history going future going forward is going to be AI. Is going to be the best fighter pilots because of coding and instant reaction speed. So that's by the way fascinating because it wasn't that long ago, 15 years ago, where I remember they were making all these newspaper. They were coming out with a lot of showing that a lot of people who were computer nerds who had really fast reaction speeds did really well in simulations for these dogfights, and they realized that these computer nerds who were gamers had such fast reaction speed. They had already trained this kind of reaction speed by gaming that they made perfect. They made great soldiers for the military. But that's only, that was short lived because they figured that out, like 10, 15 years ago. They were using all these nerds who were great, great with great capabilities. But it's already been replaced now because now that's not, it doesn't, no, it no longer matters how fast you are. You're not going to compete with these new the AI computers. So I find all these paradigm shifts that change the whole world because from history of we took to the skies and could fly. It's been humans. Now no longer. Paradigm shift gone. It'll never be the case anymore. Humans are just too fat, takes up a bunch of space. What, a cockpit? Gee, forget. You could put so much more weight. Instead of a fat human there, put another explosive there. Yeah.
Yeah. Kamikaze fighters. That will be a thing again.
Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah, if it's just going to be capital against capital. It'll be because if that's in realism, right? If that's the fastest and the best is a computer and an AI, guess what the enemy's going to do also? They're going to do the same thing. So it's just going to be capital, just money, flying and shooting other money in the form of very expensive airplanes made by no bid contracts. anyways.
And all of that will be live streamed on Twitch.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be weird when the wars in the future are not fought humans versus humans, but rather it's going to be fought with machines versus machines, money versus money.
I think the military will still need people to train the AI.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not about reflexes anymore, but about decision making. Like what's the right move to do next in order to kill the opponent.
It's I think it's gonna move where instead of a person clicking a button with a fast reaction speed, that's not gonna be the role of the human. It's gonna be instead, is it ethical to send a drone strike into this building to kill X target where you might have X amount of civilians inside of it? You know, that's been the classical question that we've been dealing with since we started using drones in wars. So I think that's going to be where humans are in the future. It's going to be, is this legal? This, sending this missile into this thing, is this a legal strike? Many people don't realize this, but a lot of these missile strikes and a lot of these okays that get okayed by various people, many people don't realize, but it's lawyers actually that approve these missile strikes, because you have to think about it. Can they legally defend sending these missiles? And at the end of the day, you're going to want to have a lawyer who's going to say yes or no on it. So people don't realize that. You think it's like a senator or military man who goes, yes, fire, Yeah. He's the one who issues the command. But usually each one is involved has a couple of lawyers in the room also looking and okaying whether they think certain missiles would be easy to defend in an international court, just so you know, or even a national court.
Yeah, as we can see in the future, there's still a lot of questions that we will have to find solutions to. Ethical questions, technical questions. I'm looking forward for more discussions. I'm looking forward to talking more about this topic. But for today, that's it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay.